Now it's time for Greg Bishop and the Council Roundup.
And the Council Roundup brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch. Also open for lunch on the weekends. And don't forget about delivery. Head West Subs, staple here in Springfield. All right, 7-Eleven, and each and every Wednesday we bring you the Council Roundup after Tuesday evening's council meeting because they switch off. One week they'll do a committee of the whole where they go through a ton of ordinances and they determine, is it non-controversial? If so, it's going to go on the consent agenda, lumped in with a whole bunch of other ordinances. If it's a controversial ordinance, and it goes on to the debate agenda, where they'll debate it at the following full city council meeting, where they then pass things, and there's all kinds of debate and all kinds of personalities and people who address the council and so on. Last night was a committee of the whole, so they had some ordinances to consider, but they also had some presentations. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. At last night's Springfield City Council meeting, you've got the treasurer offering up the report of the city's finances. Here's Treasurer Misty Busher.
The corporate fund in the month of February had a beginning balance of $64,164,513. We took in total receipts of $17,701,131. We had total disbursements of $11,433,370, which left the corporate fund with an ending balance of $70,432,274. Chair purchase of that ending balance, your ARPA fund balance, was $22,151,813.
$70 million they have cash on hand. I've been covering the city council here in Springfield for about 15, 16 years or something. And I remember where they had negative cash balances, where they had only $2 or $3 million. Alderman Joe McMiniman, he made this point as he's been on the council for about 12 years now. And he talks about how, indeed, this is a new record high.
I think we just hit a new record high on the fund balance, $70 million. I don't think we've ever had it that high before. And I'm starting to go through some old papers. I haven't been here 12 years.
And indeed, I can kind of concur with that. It's been a lot of down times where you had significant low numbers of account balance. Here's more from Alderman McMiniman highlighting just the history of where the city's come from. And keep in mind, I mean, $20+ million of that $70 million is from federal taxpayers. All right, it's just sitting there in accounts and will be spent at some point. But again, that was from COVID-19 relief. Here it is, 2023. But anyways, more from Alderman McMiniman.
But the fund balance at the end of February 14 was $3.5 million. $3.5 million, and it's currently. We just got a report, it's now $70 million, just for purposes of perspective. And then I jump forward, February of 2015, the fund balance was $5.9 million. February 2016, the fund balance at the end of February was $2.6 million. Again, we just heard a report that our current balance is $70 million. So thank God we're in good shape.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Good shape or, better shape than previous? Or, considering that the city's budget, I think, is like $130 or $160 million, having $70 million cash on hand in the balance is rather significant. So interesting to hear about that. All right, let's now talk about firehouses. And the city council does have presentations, and we've talked about them building new firehouses for quite some time, especially whenever they discussed and passed the annual budget that started, I believe, March 1st, if I'm not mistaken. But, they debated it all at the beginning of this year and putting those pieces in place, including increased funding for new fire homes, for places to have firefighters, as home base, so to speak. So they had a presentation last night from those who are building these and architects who are planning these. And here's some of how that went.
Chief said, my name is Roy Mangan. I'm with Arc Images. I'm the principal with Arc Images. I'm the architect for the fire station.
And those following along, you can see the actual PDF of the updates that they provided. updated for the city council. It includes going through Fire Station 6, 8, and 13.
House 6 is located at Ash and 11th Street, and this is the site plan as it sits there. The house is somewhat centrally located with parking in the rear and the apparatus apron going out onto 11th Street. There's a drive-through bays, staff and visitor parking. This particular facility has a community room attached to it, and I'll show you a floor plan here shortly.
So you can see if you're following along, at least on the live stream, and also you can find this at the city's website where they've got the meeting summaries, the office of the city clerk. You can see all the presentations and even download the committee audio yourself. But looking at that here, you've got the drive-through areas, complete bays, all kinds of different single bathrooms, rooms all over, different community spacing areas, more on all of this.
House 8 is located at Lawrence and Rickard. It is a drive-through bay also. There is staff and visitor parking there.
So another firehouse, and then also you've got a third firehouse that was brought up.
Station number 13 is located off of Spalding Orchard Road. It has, again, is an identical footprint to House 8. It has the drive-through bays, parking, plenty of parking, the double aprons both in the back and the front,
so
the dumpsters.
The floor plans here, you can see again the drive-through bays, but it's also got a workout room, an 8-bunk bedroom. You've got what's being called the captain's office, the dining room, even a police substation, and a community center. So those are just some of the highlights of these various firehouses, 3 different firehouses that are going to be built, and a little bit of the exterior of what it's going to look like for number 6. Then you've also got different angles of number 8 and number 13. Those are going to look very similar. Gosh, they almost look like banks with big garage doors on it. So yeah, a lot of questions. So we'll get to some of those questions. In particular, the issue of these community rooms that are going to be open to the community. Is this something that's worth it? What's the cost of these? And what's the benefit? We'll get to those questions coming up next here on WMAY. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. It's the Council Roundup, and it's brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to Head West. Their downtown location open for lunch. Don't forget about delivery, Head West Subs. We're in the middle of the Council Roundup where you've got the ongoing conversation about new fire stations, as somebody rightfully points out. I think I called it something like places for firefighters to call home base. This is not a scripted show, so I don't have any teleprompters in front of me or anything like that. I've got a bunch of computer screens in front of me, but maybe some few notes here or there, but it's not a scripted show. Anyways, let's get back into it. So yesterday they had the architects for the city's fire stations that they're planning on building, 3 of them, and they had a presentation where they showed the floor plans and where these are going to be. Somebody pointed out that at least fire station number 6 has got a lot of public parking. But I think that's really because you've got a community center that's going to be part of that. And that was a point of contention with Springfield Alderman Ralph Hanauer. He worried that that's going to increase the costs of these projects.
How much more does that community room cost? We're trying to shave cost off of that. That's something that we may have to leave out down the road. Might be something we can always build out later, but right now the idea is to get the firehouses built, and at the least cost we possibly can.
And the architects, they said that, listen, I mean, these community rooms are essentially kind of built in and built to scale. And
cost-wise, we're probably in the neighborhood of $550 a square foot. Everybody thinks, well, if you shrink that, you can save $550 a square foot. That'll never happen because there's just the economy of scale doesn't work that way, and then you've got redesign costs you'd have to recycle through the bidding process.
So, yeah, there's a lot of different factors involved when considering changing these plans now, if you're looking at trying to reduce the costs a bit. The fire chief, Brandon Blau, here he is.
As well as it's supposed to be a secondary EOC. If there was ever any type of a disaster that came through town, if we ever had another tornado or whatever, and
An emergency operations center.
people were not able to get to this building, it is the way that we've set it up is so that it can serve as a secondary EOC, which gives us a little bit of flexibility there too.
Alderman Sean Gregory, he likes this idea, not just of the community center, but also in his ward, making sure that he's got things that look nice and let the community know that they're going to be taken care of.
25 years was the last time that we built a firehouse. I'll be, a lot older by the time the next time the firehouses get done. So I'm really proud of that. I love the green space. I think that brings a unique item to that corridor, and I think it's going to help us grow on down 11th Street and grow on the east side altogether. And
Gregory says there's another good thing about how they're moving forward with these fire homes, these fire stations.
Particularly happy about is that you got O'Shea builders that want to think. Why? Not because I know them, but because I know their work. I know that they have a minority workforce that they're building. I got buddies that I went to school with and, had a shot at a career that they got now. And I think that, is the right move. So I'm happy all the way around, and I'll support this project with all my heart. Thank you.
So you also had others chiming in, Alderman Joe McMiniman, making sure that, they understand that you've got some good things happening with these fire homes, and the community aspect is really important as well.
I think we can justify it. It's not just fire, it's a broader type of goal that we're trying to achieve with that community room. So I hope the council can justify any incremental spending for it.
Well, and it's not just the community room. It's also there's a police substation of sorts that's built into this. And again, if you look at some of the overviews here, a police substation as part of Firehouse 6 with the community station and the captain's office, kitchen, all the stuff that firefighters need at a fire station, but also a police substation. And again, just looking at the other one for floor plan for Firehouse 8 and 13. It also has various different amenities, but really it's that the Fire Station 6, which has that community center and the police substation, and that's going to be again here in Springfield, the southwest corner of East Ash and 11th. So a lot of interesting things there. You've got the fire chiefs chiming in again on this, making sure that it's well known as to how they're moving forward.
As far as the actual locations being ready, some of them are more ready than others.
Right.
We're still clearing timber out on Spalding Orchard Road, and there's still some things that we need to do prep work-wise on 11th and Ash.
So he also had the architect there to talk a little bit about the timing of all of this, and these were questions brought up by Alderman Donnellan.
Probably try and mobilize by May 1st, provided that contracts are put in place, and then probably attack them sequentially, and starting with whichever side is available first, that's where we'll start. But again, there won't be significant lag one to the other. I think we'll look at a completion date of all three firehouses almost simultaneously, which will be the important part.
So we'll likely hear a lot more about this, maybe even see some ribbon cuttings before too long, or some public events where they're putting the shovels in the dirt. They go out and buy those golden shovels, and 12 of them for all the different people that are involved in the planning. And then they have the picture, and then months later they'll have the big scissors and all. You know how it goes. All right, we got to take a break. Come back, though, and more of the Council Roundup. Brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location, open for lunch. Head West Subs. Don't forget about delivery. In the midst of the Council Roundup, it is the Springfield Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop, 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Council Roundup brought to you each and every Wednesday by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. All right, we talked about the fire homes. Let's now revisit a debate that's been happening for about a month, if not longer, and that's about what to do with debt owed to the city's utility. The city of Springfield's very unique. We've got a municipally owned and operated public utility for city water, light, and power. They provide coal-fired power. They also provide water. It's municipally owned, so it's regularly parts of the conversation at City Hall here in Springfield. Totally different than, say, municipal aggregated power where they buy it from like Ameren or something. No, this is entirely owned and operated by the city of Springfield, the coal-fired power plant. So let's go ahead and get into the kind of background here of why they've talked so much about debt forgiveness for utility customers who've had some of their fees and fines waived. In particular, you've got the case of the Wyndham City Center, the large hotel in downtown Springfield. It's just about as tall as the Illinois State Capitol. I don't think that you can get anything taller than that. I might be mistaken on that. I think there's like an ordinance or something that says you can't be taller than the Illinois State Capitol. But either way, but the Wyndham City Center used to be called the Hilton. It's got other affectionate nicknames that people have for it. But the Wyndham City Center had some financial problems. You had the issues of the pandemic impacting them. They were asked to stay open so that they could possibly act as maybe some place where people could go if they had to quarantine. Then you had just the lack of hotel business altogether and the impact on the economy and the hospitality sector, all of that compounding. Then, back in 2021, they had an executive session with city council and the mayor saying, hey, the Wyndham, they could possibly go bankrupt. We've got this debt they have. We need to figure this out. And there seemed to be no real major pushback on at least moving forward with some kind of plan. But now here we are heading into an election next month. And the issue of unilateral debt forgiveness has come up because it was revealed then, after the November 2021 executive session the following summer, the Wyndham City Center came back with a plan to, hey, we've got this outside investor. He's going to come in. He's going to refashion some of the hotel rooms to apartments. And people didn't like that idea. They want the hotel to remain a hotel so that they can capture convention space and capture that audience who come to Springfield for conventions. But that deal didn't really come through. There were conversations publicly about the Wyndham being financially stable and being cash liquid, but that didn't necessarily seem to be the case whenever the mayor apparently unilaterally forgave about $250,000 in fees for the utility. So that prompted a conversation about an ordinance to set up some standards within city council and within city government as to what level of debt forgiveness the agency can have, what level of debt forgiveness the mayor can have, and then when should the city council get involved with forgiving any kind of debt. So they debated that last week and the week before. The measure did not advance. It remains in committee, but Alderman Sean Gregory, he wanted to make sure that it came out of committee, and he lays out some of his rationale as to why he wants to see this brought back up and debated.
My only discussion is to get something in place to fix the issue and put a limit on it. And, I would like to bring it out to debate. I'm sure we have another week before we vote on it. And, I'm open to any amendments or any ideas to make this better.
So what exactly is he looking for? Alderman Ralph Hanauer has been leading the charge against this idea, and he sounds off yesterday at the Committee of the Whole.
I'm still waiting to find out, does this grant authority or not? Because right now, there's nothing in our code. Not one thing. It says we have to set up a payment plan. That's all it says. So my concern about this is now we're granting the authority to start forgiving debt. We haven't had that before. And that's my biggest problem with this.
Hanauer continues to talk about, a question he had last week for the utility.
Last week, I asked Doug Brown for a list of all the times that we've forgiven the meter charges or the demand charges from any business that we've had. I've yet to receive anything. I would hope that we would have something rather quickly, because I would love to see that.
Doug Brown, the chief engineer there at the utility, he did address the question that Alderman Hanauer brought up, but is it to the liking of the alderman? Here is Doug Brown.
The utility is not forgiven debt for like demand or meter charges before. The things that have been done would be like the policy that's been, for decades has been the water leak policy is forgiving, I guess you say, that debt. But that's if they fix the leak and proven they fixed the leak.
Brown goes on to talk about the debt collection process and how there's that.
Our accounting writes them off the books, essentially, if they get turned over to collections. And if they do pay through collections or maybe some later time, then they would, like you say, reverse the accounting entry in the books.
Alderman Joe McMiniman chiming in. He's making sure that they know that there needs to be some kind of guidance in place for this ongoing issue if it's going to be a issue of debate week after week after week.
Really have some rules and clear this up. I thought we passed, during COVID, didn't we pass an appropriation to allow some debt forgiveness for businesses that got into trouble during COVID?
Well, yeah, there was a rebate, basically, program that was passed.
McMiniman says there needs to be standards in all of this.
I think we have to look into this, and I think we have to, have some rules out there, and make sure that everyone's following the same rules. So this is what this ordinance is trying to do: get everyone on the same page of music. No one has some supervisor out there doesn't have some independent authority to wipe a slate clean without anybody knowing about it.
And then you have the Corporation Counsel, the city's lawyer, and Jim Zirkle kind of lays out just where we're at right now and what exactly this particular ordinance does. It's not necessarily about debt forgiveness, but
this sets the standard for when a lien should be filed. There are none now. It's up to the department to decide about filing a lien, and it then grants limited authority in the circumstance where it's in the best interest of the utility to release that lien. So it's a very narrow issue that this particular ordinance addresses.
So will we see that part of the debate again next week? I think we probably will, especially as we get closer to the consolidated municipal elections. All right, moving on. Finally here, there's an ordinance that was concerning a lawsuit the city's looking to settle.
185, an ordinance authorizing payment of $33,000 for settlement of Central District of Illinois Federal Court Case 18-CV-3250 Willie Flowers versus City of Springfield, Hernandez, Renfro, and Davis.
For consent.
So, putting it on the consent agenda, but you've got questions from Alderman Hanauer about this particular ordinance and what exactly is going on here and where is the city liable on these things. Here's Alderman Hanauer kind of giving a gist of sorts of what this case is and some important questions that need to be asked.
My question is there anything that we can do to limit the liability of the city when we have off-duty employees working in a case like this? And I don't know whether we should talk about it out here or back there, but I do think that it's something that needs to be raised.
As a general rule, and again, if we want to talk about specifics, we should do that because it does involve specific evidence and testimony and so on. But as a general rule, if an officer is working off duty, is wearing his uniform, as it's something that's sanctioned by the department, which this was, then generally speaking, the city, when they're acting with that apparent authority, is going to be liable. That is equally true that is equally true, generally speaking, if an off-duty officer who's required to typically have their badge and gun with them, and then they take action, off-duty, and there's some issue that arises in the city, is going to generally be held liable for that.
So good to know, right? Where does liability lie when an officer's off duty but still wearing the uniform for a public event of sorts? Fascinating stuff. I tell you, it's the Council Roundup each and every week on Wednesdays after a Springfield City Council meeting. It's right here on WMAY and brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch, also open for Saturday lunch, and don't forget about delivery. Head West Subs. All right, got to take a break.